Peace, and we back for another Trill Ministries. And this one we're going to talk about your young prince or princess. Applies to both. So they have lessons, just like man itself has lessons. They're going to show you how even in the sense of the world today, the same laws apply, what we call the laws of God. There's plenty of names for these ways of man, ways of the gentleman. But what we seem to know only this time is demon, we call demon time. But what about God time? How to put your child on God time and do the works of God. People don't talk about that a lot. We talk about the negative, but no one seems to want to talk about the positive. Do we know? I don't know, but we're going to find out today. So let's get on God time. The Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation. Asiatic nation being spoke of in this as what we call the black people in a place called North America, several states. So that's what we're talking about in this. So what about them people? Ye are the children of one father, provided by his care, and the breast of one mother has given us suck. So the first line already say a lot, which we already know. That's why we call ourselves brothers and sisters. That's why we even recognize a thing such a thing as black people. Right? We give a name to a group, so we recognize a group. So in this group, that's a nation, and in that nation there's laws and ways of each nation. We must know this. So this for your sons and daughters to get. We are the children of one father and one mother. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. Father's house meaning the nation as a whole, which also is the term country. Country also means, it's a generic term. It doesn't mean what we think. It's a term metaphysically meaning the land of that nation, or that nation in a group. And when ye separate in the world, all the brothers and sisters, remember the relation that binds you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood, which is people of other nations. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. Remember that now. That's you being on God time when you follow these laws. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Our love for each other, we become blessed and fortunate. The holy instruction of unity, the gifts of the understanding are the treasures of Allah, are the Most High, or God, or wherever you like to use the name, everything that is seen and unseen. Allah. And He appointed to every one his portion of understanding, and what measure seems good unto himself. And that line just goes to show that we got to understand, even within our nation, people on different frequencies of understanding. So you'll be able to better judge your brothers and sisters, knowing that off the rip, that they got their own certain amount of understanding at this point to suit them, to suit the whole, right? So understand that. Has He endowed thee with wisdom? Hasn't He endowed thee with wisdom? Hasn't He enlightened thy mind with the knowledge of truth? Communicated to the ignorant for their instruction. Communicated to the wise, which is the people on your same frequency with you, for thy own improvement. People on the same frequencies, we discuss things for our own improvement, so we can better listen to our co-patriots, our peers. True wisdom is less presuming than folly. The wise man doubts often and changes his mind often. The fool is obstinate and doubts not. He knows all things by his own ignorance. That's a humbling incantation. The pride of emptiness is an abomination, and to talk much is the foolishness of folly. Nevertheless, it is the part of wisdom to hear with patience their impertinence, and to pity their absurdity. Patience is wisdom. It's the instruction of unity, but unity is hard to achieve unless we understand man. So let us study man. Teach your sons and daughters the ways of man, so they may be able to deal with this. Yet be not puffed up in thy own conceit, neither boast of superior understanding. The clearest human knowledge is but blindness and folly. The wise man feels his imperfections and is humbled. He labors in vain for his own approbation, but the fool peeps in the shadow stream of his own mind and is pleased with the pebbles which he sees at the bottom. He brings them up and shows them as pearls, and with the applause of his brethren delights himself. That right there to tell you that your potential within you is infinite. So bringing up pebbles and showing it off as pearls is equivalent to showing off, right? Showing off to the point of blindness and conceit. Another way to say that is, when you think you rich, somebody richer. When you think you this bad person, somebody better. He boasts of attainments in things that are no worth, but where it is a shame to be ignorant, there has no understanding. They don't even understand the shame of ignorance. Even in the path of wisdom, when I say they, we also talk about ourselves. Remember, always remind your sons and daughters that this talking about them and their brothers and sisters, because it's a reflection. We're talking about the nation. But you must know that this is about yourself, so you would be able to better yourselves, right? Even in the path of wisdom, he toils after folly. And shame and disappointment are the reward of his labor. Shame and disappointment is the reward for toiling after folly. And we do that. We will dumb ourselves down. We will embrace ignorance for our selfish selves. Controversy sells, sex sells, so people will use that. But then, what that's for? That's for their selfish self. Because they ain't helping everybody. They're only putting money in their pockets. And the point of the matter is, they only giving them times of shame and disappointments as a reward for that too. But the wise man cultivates his mind with knowledge. The improvement of the arts is his delights. We can look into that. Let's look into that. That's what we mean by the arts. You're not literally talking about like a painting. It's more deeper. It's talking about the 7 liberal arts, principled practices, vocational, professional, technical, let me see, 4 arts: astronomy, mathematics, geometry, and music. And they add more over time. But these are the things that nobles teach their children to master very young age, because they understand some of life sciences, physical sciences, logic, mathematics, statistics, computer sciences, philosophy, history, social sciences, and creative arts. God time. He improves. The improvement of the arts is his delight, because all these things is not selfish acts. These things help the society in whole, right? Biology, ecology, neurology, chemistry. These things build up civilization. And if we're going to be the fathers and mothers of civilization, we're going to call ourselves kings and queens and call our children princes and princesses. Then let's act like it. We're acting like something else, the opposite of what we're saying, and what my view as a whole. And their utility to the public crowns thee with honor. You see, the usage of these arts is not just for the selfish self, it's helping others. Nevertheless, the attainment of virtue he accounts as the highest learning. And what we're learning now, we're learning virtuous things. God time. Sins, we learn that too. We learn our higher and our lower self, so we may know how to bind the lower self better and better. But the highest learning in this life itself is man. It's how to build up civilization. And the science of happiness is the study of his life. His, meaning your sons and daughters, when you teaching them these things. The unity of the rich and the poor. We're going to talk about that. Even how we look at richness and poorness is all sciences to it. So let's look deep into these sciences. The man whom Allah has given riches and blessed with the mind to employ them aright is peculiarly favored and highly distinguished. So off the top, not the rich man, but the man who is rich and is blessed with the mind to employ them aright is peculiarly favored and distinguished in the eyes of God. And man, not the rich man, but this man who know how to use his riches with his nation. He looks on his wealth with pleasure because it affords him the means to do good. He protects the poor that are injured. He suffers not the mighty to oppress the weak. He seeks out objects of compassion. He inquires into their wants. He relieves them with the judgments and without ostentation. So look up these words like ostentation, words that we don't commonly use, and get a more common version. This was written in the 1920s. By one of our great fathers, founding fathers. Vain show, display extended to excite admiration or applause. He relieved them with judgment and without ostentations. He assists and rewards merit, good works from others. And that's a good practice and a way to gain favoritism in the eyes of God. Go out there, and even if a thank you is for somebody who's doing something good, that's helping embrace the good, because we embracing the ignorant. Right? Drama sells, controversy sells, so that's showing that we as a nation, we embracing that. We embrace ignorance and we shunning knowledge, and our children seeing that, and we lead them to believe that's what making us cool, quote unquote. We're gonna be united in this. And I've been seeing that we unite quick when it comes to hate, when it comes to knowledge of deeper thought and higher learning. To really bow, we are bored out. And that's a sad thing. We gotta reverse that, and start with the mind of the children. Read these to your children. Talk to these as a family. Talk about these things. He encouraged ingenuity, basically advancement, like we're doing now. Advancement upward mobility, building up, not down. And liberality promotes every useful design. And a lot of rich who know these lessons, they'll go to places like Kickstarter and just go put money on people projects. So they follow in this rule 5. He cares his own great works. He carries his own great works. His country is enriched, and the labor is employed. He forms new schemes, and the arts receive improvement. Advancement, right? He considered the superfluities of his table, and belonging to the poor of his neighborhood, and he defrauded them not. He considered the superfluities of his table as belonging to the poor of his neighborhood, and defrauded them not. The benevolence of his mind is not checked by his fortune. He rejoiced therefore in riches, and his joy is blameless. But woe unto that heaps up wealth in abundance. So now let's talk about the lower self. We talked about the higher. Let's talk about the lower also. Know yourself. When we say know thyself, we're talking about the bad and the good within each and every one of us. And rejoice alone in the possession thereof, that grinds the face of the poor, and considers not the sweat of their brows. He drives on oppression without feeling. The ruin of his brother disturbs him not. The tears of the orphan he drinks as milk. The cries of the widow are music to his ears. His heart hardened with the love of wealth, no grief or distress can make impressions upon it. But the curse of iniquity pursues him. He lives in continual fear. The anxiety of his mind and the rapacious desire of his own soul takes vengeance upon him for the calamities he has brought upon others. The reminder of, if you want to not take heed of these lessons, here's your reward. Oh, what are the miseries of poverty in comparison with the gnawings of this man's heart? So basically saying, this man who has riches, but his heart ain't turned right. The ones in poverty live more in riches than that man. Let the poor man comfort himself, yes, rejoice, for he has many reasons. He sits down to his morsel in peace. His table is not crowded with flatterers and devourers. And this for the man who understands his wealth comes in abundance of love, abundance of friendship and allies, abundance of wealth and health. All those things. So he understands the worth of his things and content. So he sits down to his morsels in peace. His table is not crowded with flatterers, devourers. He is not embarrassed with the train of dependents, nor teased with the clamors of solicitations. Debarred from the daintiness of the rich, he escapes also their diseases. So you gotta understand, let your children understand the meaning of being rich and poor, and how to work that, how to think about that. The bread that he has eaten is not so sweet to his taste. The water he drinks is not so pleasant to his thirst. Yea, far more delicious water than the richest draughts of the luxurious. The water from your backyard well that you make, and put some flowers around them, design them, put a nice little chair out there from that well. Ain't no different from the well bought for $5 million from somebody mansion. That water is just as luxurious as the one you created. You put your worth in that, and it's worth more than 100 gold mines in reality. In the eyes of God, the eyes of man, the 2.5 million one might be taste better, but that's mental. So let's continue. He labors, his labor preserves his health, and procures him a repose, to which the downy bed of sloth is a stranger. So the working man, his riches, he abound from his health, right? Health is abundance of good health, abundance of good spirits around you. Other things is wealth. One thing he know, his downy bed of sloth, that's a stranger to him. He limits his desires with humility, and the calm of contentment is sweeter to his soul than all the acquirements of the wealth and the grandeur. Let not the rich therefore presume of his riches, nor the poor in his poverty yield to despondence. For the providence of Allah dispenses happiness to them both. Dispenses. You can live in happiness in both realms. Again, by studying man. That's all we gotta do. Study ourselves. What makes us tick and work on those things so we be better work together for the betterment of all our children, our future, our destiny. Hold on, let me get something to drink, come back. Okay, that's the last one. Let's finish up this chapter right here. We're really about to talk to your prince, your little young prince or princess. We gotta understand, we got a kingdom up within. We are, which is our body, our soul. And they can only wear the crown and sit on the throne of that kingdom. No other man could. So the household is also a kingdom. So he may be able to set his household in order as a man when he grew up. A woman when she grew up. She the head of the household, he the head of the household, the man of the house, the woman of the house. All those are terms we're going to equate with prince and princess. Also the community, and then also the nation in that order. The first house you got to say in order is the house within, and then work out from there. So let's talk about this. As we set this house in order, we creating the kingdom of heaven on earth. Manifest it. So let's talk about your son. O thou, the favorite of heaven. Right? He's the favorite of heaven. Let's talk about what make him that. Whom the Son of Man, the sons of man, thy equals, have agreed to raise to sovereign power and set as a ruler over themselves. So always remember that the ones around you has set you as a leader, your son. They set him there on the throne. We all play a leader role position in our nation. We got peers, we got youth, we got elders at all times. And we're going to play a leadership role here and there. And that role, we humble enough to know that we've been put on that position by the people around us. So how do we handle it? That's how we work it. And set as a ruler over themselves. Consider the ends and importance of their trust. Facts more than the dignity and the height of thy station. Thou art clothed in purple, and seated on a throne. The crown of majesty invested thy temples. The scepter of power is placed in thy hand, but not for thyself were these signs given, not meant for thy own, but the good of thy kingdom. So every act of a prince is for the good of all, never for thyself or self. The glory of a king is the welfare of his people. His power and dominion rests on the hearts of his subjects. The mind of a great prince is exalted with the grandeur of his situation. He evolves high things and searches for business worthy of his power. So as you can see, even though we don't got the system of royalty in North America in this time, 2020 CC, we still, our sons and daughters still get in positions of power and business in different positions. leaderships. And a lot of times we fail because we don't got these understandings that we evolves hide things and searches for goodness worthy of our power. We call together the wise men of the kingdom. We consult among them with freedom, and here's the opinions of them all, not of the ones you like, or the ones who paying you, or the ones who flattering you. Of all. That's a true prince. He looks amongst his people with discernment. He discovers the abilities of men and employs them according to their merits. Not because he favors, because of their own merits. His magistrates are just, his ministers are wise, and the favorite of his bosom deceives him not. He smiles on the arts, and they flourish. The science improve beneath the culture of his hands. With the learned and the ingenious, he delights himself. With the learned and the ingenious, he take pride in that. We embrace man based off material things. The prince embraced man based off this man inner ability, his intelligence that he gained, the love that he showed, and those type of things, real things. He kindles his in their breast emulation, and the glory of his kingdom is exalted by their labors. The spirit of the merchant who extends his commerce, the skill of the farmer who enriches his land, the ingenuity of the artist, the improvement of the scholar, all these he honors with his favor, or rewards with his bounty. He plants new colonies, he builds strong ships, he opened rivers for convenience, and your ancestors did all these too. He formed harbors for safety, and you can see why most houses live by a harbor, because our ancestors been bullying it. His people abounds in riches, and the strength of his kingdom increases. And remember, your son and his team, quote unquote, gonna be abounded with riches, not just him, because he understand how to deal with his fellow men. He framed his statutes with equity and wisdom. His subject enjoys the fruits of their labor and security, and their happiness consists of the observance of the law. Keep the law. He don't never take those injuries. He don't embrace violence, death. Those things that destroys his kingdom. He's strict with his law. And I say that, I had to say that because we look at things like the law as some kind of enemy, when that's our ways. We create those things. We can't have both without it. He founds his judgment on the principles of mercy, but in the punishment of offenders, he is strict and impartial. He's merciful, but he don't play with offenders, and he's very fair. His ears are open to the complaints of his subjects, all of them. He restrains the hand of their oppressors and delivers them from their tyranny. His people, therefore, look up to him as a father. His reverence and love, they consider him as the guardian of all they enjoy. His people, therefore, look up to him. We read that. Their affection unto him begets his breast and love. And when we say breast, we're talking about the feelings. Feelings, usually people equate that with start within the chest. Like, you feel pain, you feel it in your chest. Feel happiness and joy, you feel it in your chest. So we use the word breast to express feelings. A love of the public. The security of their happiness is the object of his care. In the public, again, which is you, within you, your thoughts, your spirits, your kingdom, your household is the public. The community, outside world, even online or offline, anything outside your household is being put in the public. So again, even though we ain't talking about physically manifested kingdom in North America, in reality we do talk about that. Is what we talking about. Our people, us together, is our kingdom. No matter what land we on, what you call, what time period it is, it's the science. No murmurs, rumors, talk against him arise in their hearts. The machinations, and again, if you got that talking against you from your own people, some of these rules you ain't doing right. It's something you violating. That's why. The machinations of his enemies endangered not the state. His subjects are faithful and firm in his cause. They stand in his defense as a wall of brass. The army of a tyrant flees before them as shaft before the wind. And again, it's your son in this harder world gonna perceive him if he follow the right path, which we read about in the beginning of this chapter. Now he's showing you the reward for sticking to the right path, not letting fame, pleasures, and other things knock him off. Security and peace bless the dwelling of his people, and glory and strength encircle his throne forever and ever. And that's the end of this lesson. We're gonna add this to two playlists. Could this go hand in hand with the ways of the gentleman? Cause that's the same thing as a prince, really. The same books. They read the same books. Anyway, that's the end of this lesson. We can talk on and on and on from each of these lines, right? Because these what we see today. We'll see you in the next lessons. And peace till next time.